The world is becoming heavily digitized, but so are the risks with it. A very warm welcome to Neutrino's HealthTech podcast series. As a part of this series today, we are joined by Mr. Kanhaiya Kumar, who is working as a Chief Information Security Officer here at Neutrino Tech Systems, also dearly known as KK. A very warm welcome to you, KK.
Thank you, Matri, for introducing me. I would like to greet everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, according to the places wherever you are joining from. Once again, thanks for introducing me.
KK, your experience spans over a decade of working in DevOps, cloud infrastructure, security. So, as working as a CISO here at Neutrino, can you share how the company ensures security while effectively serving its clients?
Sure. So at Neutrino, we consider security as one of the core fundamental principles that we follow in everything we do. So basically what we do is we follow the zero trust policy, right? So as part of this, what we do is we authorize and authenticate each access request that we receive, right? We have a proactive monitoring. We have AI driven threat intelligence mechanism that we follow to make sure like we safeguard clients data, sensitive information that we deal with, right? And our proactive approach while dealing with all these things stays ahead of every threats that is there in market, and we are ensuring proper delivery uninterrupted services for our clients.
You just now mentioned zero security trust.
Yeah.
Can you tell me how effective it is for IT companies to have this in their system?
Yeah. So see, first of all, let's understand what is zero trust, right? So when I talk about zero trust security, it's basically, if I talk in layman term, right, it's something like never trust, always verify, right? Be it a senior executive in your company, right? You have to verify, right? You cannot just trust like you know that person and you can allow them, right? So this is the core principle that we follow, and it keeps us protected from insider threats and credential theft, right? So the benefit, right, that we can get by implementing zero trust is like, let's say, if we have a security breach, right, then by this mechanism, what will happen is the threat will get stopped at one particular level itself, right? We will not allow them to introduce beyond that level, right? So that is main benefit of introducing this, right? We have various mechanisms that we can introduce, having MFA, having multiple authentications that we enable. There are various things that we have already implemented in our org.
Okay. Neutrino Tech Systems also works in the healthcare space, and healthcare space is very sensitive.
Yep.
So, how can you shed light on how we stay compliant with the sensitive data that we have?
Totally agreed what you say, Maitri, right? So we prioritize security and compliance, right? Especially when we deal with healthcare clients, right? We have to handle sensitive data, right? And when we deal with that, right, we keep ourselves compliant with the industry standards, and we adhere to many compliances. If I talk about few that we are already compliant, like ISMS, ISO 27001 is one of the compliance that we are there for last 4 years. And then recently, for last 2 years, we have also been compliant with SOC 2 Type 2 audit, which is basically a framework of security that we utilize for companies dealing with customer data, right? So we are compliant for last 2 years for that also. From time to time, we generally conduct trainings, right, among our employees, and basically all our employees are HIPAA trained. When I say HIPAA trained, they know how to deal with patient data, right? Proactive training, proactive monitoring helps us keeping ourselves compliant and serving our clients better, right? From time to time, we update our systems to deal with the latest threats in the market, and that's how we are serving our healthcare clients effectively for past 6 years.
You just now mentioned about the looming security threats, right? So we all know AI is revolutionizing the cybersecurity, but how is it also being used by cyber criminals?
Sure. So indeed, this is a great question I would like to answer, right? So AI is definitely transforming cybersecurity, but you know, every coin has two faces, right? Head and tail, right? Same way, AI is benefiting both defenders as well as attackers, right? So if I talk about defender side, right, how we are using AI is like we have AI based threat mechanism that we can utilize to safeguard those threats, identify the anomalies ahead of time, right? We have automated response coming out of AI, right? But on other side, if I talk about cyber criminals, right, they are also using AI to exploit the solution, and they utilize it for sophisticated attack, right? If I give you some example, right? So if you have seen, like, there are spam emails coming to us which are more like human written language, right? And that is very hard to detect even in the traditional security system, right? So that's where we all have to make sure, like, we upgrade ourselves and we keep on innovating new ideas how cybersecurity can be improved by using AI, and safeguard ourselves from AI powered cyber threats.
You mentioned that, just exactly as how we are progressing in AI, so is the other side of the coin also progressing
Yeah.
in AI. That makes me think about DeepSeek.
Yeah.
So when I think about DeepSeek, we have seen DeepSeek scams everywhere.
Yeah.
So can you just give us a real life example and a lesson from a real life scam?
Sure, I guess, yeah. I mean, not only in IT world, if I talk about this, right, in generic, right, you would have seen lot of digital arrest happening nowadays, right? So one of that example I would like to quote, right? So basically, these are all social engineering attacks, right? That cyber criminals use to implement, and they want something in return, be it a money or some kind of data that can give them some Uh, privilege or some money earning, right? So how, if I talk about one example from IT, right? So back in 2024, if I remember correctly, somewhere in February 2024, there was a scam for defect, right, in Hong Kong, right, where cyber criminals basically impersonated a CFO of a very big company, and then they tweaked the employee, and then they charged them around $25 million, right? So that was a loss for that company. The reason was like that video was looking so real, employees believed in that, and they had to give money in return, right? So things comes in our mind, like how we can safeguard ourselves, right? So first and foremost thing I keep on telling everyone, inside or outside, everywhere, right? First thing is be vigilant, right? That is the key, right? Whatever comes, right, you have to think before you act. You have to think, okay? The next thing is, while we do that, right, that's a human tendency that error can happen, right? So how we can mitigate the risk, right? So what I suggest here is, like, you go for some more verification, right? So let's say scammers generally ask for money, right? So let's say if they are asking for money, have some system, right, which introduces some kind of multi-factor authentication, right? So let's say someone is asking for money, even if it is a top executive from your company, right? You inquire, okay, you ask for another identity, okay, ask for some email authentication. Let's say if email is compromised, right, have some system in your place, right? MFA, right, that is a personal device, right? That kind of mechanism we can bring in. Other thing is definitely employee awareness and training is definitely needed. It's not just happening with top executives, right? As I said, like, it's a common life example, right? So we can build those kind of system, implement it, but at the end I would say, like, with the zero trust approach, security is a shared responsibility. Everyone has to participate in it, understand it. We can provide training, but everyone has to follow it. That's the main thing to follow, and safeguard ourselves from those attacks.
I think it is something that every employee or even every individual should remember while we are interacting with the, because computers have become like they're in every household. So everyone, I think the points that you mentioned in the end, everyone has to be very aware about it.
Yeah.
You also mentioned while answering that the company lost around 25 million to the
Yeah.
attackers. Makes me think that what risks are there if a financial institution gets hacked?
Yeah, I'll come to that, right? So, as I was giving you example of common life also, right? So you would have seen lot of scams happening on WhatsApp also nowadays, right? Where you will see like not talking about big persons, right? Even a common man, right? They are also losing money in terms of someone will give them some link, they will download it, and that will have a virus and that will hack their laptop, mobile, and they ask for money, right? Or there are scams where they give you some kind of greed, right? Where they will say like, okay, you do this, we will give you more returns in the return, right? So what happens in this is it's a human tendency, right? If someone is giving you something in return, you tend towards that, right? But since AI has evolved so much, as I mentioned, like it is also helping attackers, right? We have to be vigilant, understand how we can minimize the risk, right? So one example I want to quote here is like there is a mechanism called as dark web monitoring, right? So recently, just last week I'm talking, right? So in the Feb last week, there was such security breach happened for one of the largest broking agency, right? I'll not take the name here on this forum, but that attack actually happened where one of the senior brokers credential, right, for their cloud, right? So basically they are using one of the leading cloud, and their credentials was shared, I mean it was found in the dark web, right? So basically dark web is a place where you can find a lot of credentials, data which they basically sell, right? For illegal activity, right? So it was found there, but fortunately, there was no loss for fund of the people who are associated with that firm. That's a good news, in fact. But what I want to highlight here is since there was a dark web monitoring in place, right, that safeguarded that company proactive approach of revoking the access, making sure we implement reinforce the security at cloud side. It safeguarded people. But again, what I want to highlight here is like we have to focus on training, introducing some second mechanism of authentication like MFA. We have to maintain access controls, right? So those are the mechanisms we have to use.
Wow, we had a web, now we have to pay attention to dark web also.
Definitely.
You also mentioned
You know, like I want to quote one thing here, like as I said, like AI is helping both, right? So if someone is using it for bad purpose, right? I mean, there are both hackers, right? There are good hackers as well as bad hackers, right? We call it as ethical hacking, right?
Ethical hacking,
So
yeah.
we have to understand what is going bad in market, and we have to upgrade ourselves, our system to overcome that. And that's how, I mean, you cannot stop any threat, right? That will keep on happening, right? We also keep on getting some kind of spam emails, right? In the name of CEO, right? But we have to understand the first thing I want to highlight everyone is security is a shared responsibility. It cannot be done by a single IT team or a single CISO like me, right? It's a shared responsibility. Everyone has to equally contribute. Once everyone contributes, then only we will be able to create a secured environment.
Very true, very true. I totally agree with this. We are also, at Neutrino, we have also high infrastructure that highly relies on cloud. So are many other IT industries that are migrating to cloud on a very high level. What can you tell us about, how can we prevent cloud security breaches?
Sure. Yeah. Good question. Right. So when we talk about digitalization, right, everyone is moving towards cloud because obviously it has its own benefit, right? So everyone goes there, but the bigger threat that we see in market is more around misconfigurations that we do once we migrate to cloud, right? Any misconfiguration can lead to the bigger consequences, right? If I talk about a small example, right? If one API key is exposed, right? Or let's say if one S3 bucket that stores some kind of data, right? If that is wrongly configured, right? That can lead to lot of data leakage, okay? And that's how I guess we will be in a trouble, right? So one thing I would mention is like misconfiguration is something we have to work. We need to make sure like there is a strong secured cloud architecture, and that is deployed. The second thing I would like to quote here is, when we implement something, right, what happens in general life is we give access to everyone, right? So another suggestion I would like to give everyone is like, have a mechanism to control access, right? There is a terminology called as RBAC, right? Role based access control in cloud. Most of the cloud follow it, in terminology may be different, but the main mechanism is like, you have to control access based on roles, right? And always follow the principle of having least access. So let's say if I am CISO, right, I might not need an access to actually do some kind of implementation. What access I would need is more on reporting side of it, right? So access should always be least controlled. That's the principle of RBAC. We all should follow. And apart from that, there are various mechanisms we can utilize from infrastructure side also. Like there are penetration testing that we can perform, and that should be, I would say, like at least done quarterly for all your public facing endpoints. That gives you a proactive update around your threats that might be there, any weaknesses you can understand before attackers actually use it. So yeah, these are the best practices I would suggest to be used here.
So basically, being vigilant is what is going to get you around by for not being hacked.
Yeah, I mean, I have been talking about one simple phrase, right? Stop and then act. That's something we have to do in IT, right? Anything you see, even if it is a genuine email, right? Stop before clicking anything, right? You don't know, as I said, like AI is giving all personalized emails, and sometimes it is possible that it is not being tracked, right? It is not being quarantined. So you have to stop and then act. Don't abruptly click anything you see, even in your email, your text messages, anywhere. It applies to everyone, right?
There have also been, just like you mentioned, that emails is the most common way of people getting hacked, and we also see a lot of it about in the news. So there are something called as phishing emails that especially cybersecurity experts deal with. So how can IT team defend against these phishing emails?
Yeah, so as I said, like with the help of AI, right, we have multiple ways to address it, right? So if I talk, we have AI-enabled threat intelligence mechanism system that we utilize. Apart from that, each domains, right, who provides us email, right, they have their own quarantine mechanism. They have their own policies. I would recommend everyone to follow the best practices there, update their policies. So some of the key policies, if I talk, right? So for email protocols, there are DMARC, SPF, right? So we can implement those policies, block any unauthorized senders who are not fulfilling these criterias, and at that point we can block. But as I said, things are evolving, right? We cannot block everything. It keeps on changing on daily basis, right? So second thing that I would like to say is, IT is first wall, right? User has to be the second wall. Okay, user can control. If IT is still not able to block something, user has to think, and how user will be able to do is a big question, right? So the simple answer is like, we have to keep ourselves compliant. We have to provide the proper training at a regular interval to all our associates, right? That's the key to I mean, get rid of all such spam emails and threats. Yeah.
I believe that is why every associate at Neutrino Tech Systems undergoes an IT induction when he joins. I also went through it. So I
Yeah.
think that is quite critical, as you have highlighted the aspects.
You're right, right? So what I say is like, delivery is one side of it, right? No doubt you have to do delivery to get business, right? But security should always be on top of anything, right? That protects you actually. Just consider one example. If you are doing better, right, in every aspect, and let's say for God's sake, I mean, it should not happen with any company. Let's say there is even a single security threat, right? That can cause $1 million loss to a company, right? So what will delivery do there, right? A single small mistake can cause that much loss, right? So security should always be a top priority for any company, and that's how we operate in Neutrino. As I said, like it's one of our core fundamentals, right, that we follow. So all our approach that we do, all our deliveries are tagged with it. Any development we do, security is considered. We enforce DevSecOps, right? So if I talk about DevSecOps, it's basically including security in the development life cycle, right?
Correct.
That's the main thing we can do to mitigate here.
I think it has been a very wonderful discussion. One final question I would like to pose is, what is the single most important cybersecurity advice that you would give IT companies in 2025?
So it's actually a very tricky question. There are many, but since you have asked me to quote one, right? As a CISO, I would say think from a different perspective and assume that breach will happen and act accordingly. Why I'm saying this is, everyone thinks like if an attack will happen, we will go through it, do the mitigation, and limit the impact. But if you have a mindset from security that breach will happen, right, and you act proactively on it, right, there are less chances that impact, if even if it happens, right, you will go through very minimal impact, right? It will not come in a day. Definitely you have to go through multiple things in order to enable this. So as I mentioned in my discussion, like you have to go with zero trust security, right? That's the architecture that everyone has to follow. We need to utilize RBAC. AI, definitely we have to invest in AI driven threat intelligence mechanism to catch any sophisticated cyber security attacks. And at last, as I said, like we definitely have to invest a lot in the employee training. And there should be a regular training, regular compliance checks, regular kind of spoofing emails being sent to employees, so that we understand how much awareness, maturity they have in terms of security understanding, right? So these are the key things I would like to suggest to everyone.
I think it was very wonderful. Thank you so much for your time, and I'm sure our users are going to find this a very insightful session, and they will definitely have some key takeaways for a better use of internet next time they're online. Thank you so much.
Sure. Thanks a lot, Maitri, for arranging this. Have a nice day ahead, everyone.